de fato poder fazer alguma coisa bastante milagrosa. Estamos entrando no vídeo e aí ele faz a contagem um pouquinho antes da gente entrar, tá?
Tá.
Na Raiz, a gente trabalha com desenvolvimento local e com empoderamento de pessoas, porque a gente acredita que uma oportunidade, que uma informação, que de repente uma forma diferente de ver um problema, ela pode mudar uma pessoa e no fim das contas são as pessoas que mudam os lugares. A Raiz foi formada em 2006 por mulheres, jovens, turismólogas, e a gente tinha essa vontade de desmistificar um pouco o turismo como uma atividade meramente econômica. A gente queria mostrar que o turismo ele pode ser também um vetor de transformação.
As pessoas acham que a transformação do turismo ela se dá a partir da materialização, né? E nós acreditamos muito que ela se dá também a partir da emoção e fazer com que esses territórios tragam de volta a sua riqueza, a sua beleza, sem querer estereotipar aquilo que o mercado acha que deve ser. É a emoção das pessoas que conta pra gente o quanto aquele território está sendo transformado, tanto de quem recebe quanto de quem visita, né? Aí a gente vê que a transformação está acontecendo.
O processo começa quando você vai no barreiro, pega a argila, traz, depois leva para a gangorra, soca, peneira, amassa, aí depois você começa o processo de modelagem. Modelou a peça, fez o acabamento, depois tem um período ali de descanso e depois você volta de novo para a pintura, que é um outro processo, e logo após a pintura vai para o forno e está pronto.
Pense em um sonho, daquele que você gostaria muito que se realizasse. Agora imagine se isso fosse possível, hoje. E que o segredo para que esse sonho se realize seja pessoas. Pessoas empenhadas e unidas em torno de um propósito. Esse é o Grupo Águia, o mais diversificado e completo grupo de turismo do Brasil e também o mais apaixonado pelo que faz. Afinal, viajar, conhecer novas culturas e lugares é fazer acontecer dentro de nossos clientes a possibilidade de alcançar não só distâncias, mas os seus corações. Porque quando olhamos para o céu, vemos mais que possibilidades, vemos um universo de caminhos. Caminhos que às vezes escolhemos para ir ao encontro de grandes desafios. Como integrar paixão e excelência em uma só experiência. E juntos, vencer dificuldades e gerir competências para realizar melhor sonhos como este que você acabou de imaginar. Porque é olhando para os céus que sentimos vontade de voar cada vez mais alto, de começar e recomeçar sempre. Seja na sua cidade favorita ou em um novo lugar. Afinal, o desconhecido é para nós uma forma de energia, porque é nele que aprendemos e crescemos. Por isso, somos diversificados. É do ser humano ser assim. É humano ter coragem e garra. Conhecemos, incentivamos e valorizamos em cada uma das pessoas que trabalham conosco essa força, essa alegria. Fortalecendo o nosso conceito de grupo, compartilhando ideias, conhecimentos e realizações. Para que o nosso maior sucesso seja alcançarmos o nosso maior propósito, a felicidade. Grupo Águia, dê asas aos seus sonhos.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to have you back. And we are now at the final stretch of our forum. For those who have been with us since the beginning, we are following a path, a path that we are now to bring you alternatives, the options and practices that already take place in Brazil by amazing women who are with us today, who will be able to share with us alternatives, solutions, and what they have already been doing when it comes to running responsible tourism. This first panel, we're going to have people who are putting into practice truly all of this, putting into practice what we've been debating and speaking about. We heard from the Amazon panel, we heard from brilliant speakers. I think everybody who were with us, if they actually didn't cry, they were about to, because it was a very intense, very emotional panel. And at the same time, a very sad panel, not only as a Brazilian, but as a person who lives in this planet, who is part of this human species. It is very hard to hear everything we heard from Crowery, from Cocotte. It really, we feel helpless. And we see that they are rather losing hope, truly. And that really is a call to action. It's calling all of us It's a call to action. It's a message to all of us. And I think Jussara is going to speak further about this. And this afternoon panel that is called Responsible Tourism in Brazil, Potential to Become a World Benchmark, will hear that yes, that there are people who have been doing responsible tourism, who are entering in ancestral indigenous communities to help together with them of their cultures, of their spaces, of their land. So we do see and hear people and we need to get to know them. Not only us, the whole world. I know it's amazing, but they are actually very well known abroad. But we as Brazilians need to really mirror what these amazing women are doing all over. So it is my pleasure to very briefly introduce these amazing female speakers. Then I'm going to pass the floor to Jussara, who is actually an inspired person indeed. So Jussara Rocha, she's a social entrepreneur. She's a co-founder and of sustainable development groups that it's NGO. She's got a master's in social fundamentals in history. She has a degree in tourism. She's worked as a coordinator and developer in communities and the third sector. She coordinates touristic projects for territorial development, social empowerment, and network management in several states in Brazil. Jussara is a well-known, renowned name in Brazil and all over due to the major contributions that she does and her work that she does when it comes to responsible tourism. We have Mariana Madureira, who is Raízes de Desenvolvimento Sustentável, Sustainable Development Roots. She's a co-founder, so Jussara's partner. She's also has a degree in tourism. She has a master's degree in history and social fundamentals and architecture, and a PhD in psychosociology of ecological communities. She's coordinated projects to develop tourism in community-based regions in Jequitinhonha. And she's also coordinated the second summit for solidarity tourism and community tourism in 2015, and the campaign Green Passport and the UN Environmental and Games event in 2016. Also, we have with us Polyana de Oliveira. She is the president of the Bagagem Project and the director of Viare Travel. She's got a degree in international relations. She's got an MBA in business management. Polyana is an entrepreneur in tourism since 2011. She started in responsible tourism in 2016 when she opened her travel agency called Viare Travel. They work with receiving Brazilians through personal curatorship of scripts, through transparency, helping travelers to get closer to local communities. In her journey in tourism, she's discovered community-based tourism, and since then she's been a volunteer in the Bagage Project. Today we're going to hear more about the Bagage Project, whose role has quite unique in the responsible tourism in Brazil. Today, she's directing the NGO. Herself and other board members are now communicating this acquired knowledge through digital content. Plus, she's continuing her learning through initiatives all over the national territory via campaigns and development for community-based tourism in Brazil. So welcome. Thank you for joining us, Mariana. Also, we have the honor to have Solange Barbosa. She develops cultural and tourism programs. She maps African diaspora at RM Valley in the state of São Paulo. She's also got a degree in tourism. She's a tour guide. She's a former consultant for UNESCO for the Slave Route Program and ECOWAS Tourism Director, that is the Brazilian Africa Chamber of Commerce. Solange, it's an honor and a pleasure to have you. We also have Ana Duék. Ana Duék, Cecilia, is a journalist. She's got 15 years experience in communication and marketing in the tourism. She's got a master's degree in international tourism management and hospitality from the Middlesex University in London. In 2015, she founded the sustainable tourism called Viajar Verde. For those who do not know, you should know. Anna's website is simply amazing. And since then, she gives consultancy and guidance to tourism companies to be more community and sustainable. And she's also being awarded as an influencer for International Travel and Tourism Awards in WTM London back in 2018. So truly an amazing group of women gathered, and I hope everybody can absorb fully everything that you have been doing and all the teaching and everything that you have to share with us. It is an honor to have you indeed. Thank you, Carla. It is indeed an amazing pleasure to have you. I've been with you not only since yesterday, but not only since yesterday, but since the conception. Since its conception, I've been really honored with our contact when we first touched base. We never met before. So I think this should be mentioned because it's very important conferences that are coming, and we really welcome this. We take this in, and it's very important. And now to witness and to see the forum taking place and being able to contribute makes me really happy, because we see information is one of the fundamental pillars so that we can understand responsible tourism in Brazil and the power, the potential it has to transform Brazil for a better country for everybody who come visit us and for us who live here. So I think to really take part in an event like this is absolutely fundamental. And I've been witnessing how beautiful the coherent line that is showing all the actions together and all the informations together so that we can expand our views and think deeper about every single issue, and most importantly, enable action. I think this process is about really build up. It is it's a craft really. We're patching things, we're sewing things, we're putting things together. And also the other piece of information, whilst you were thinking, I was actually reflecting upon that. Because not only as a correction, but truly, I want to share how much of a choice everything is. Because everything we're doing here is about personal choice. There is also professional choice. Example, I am not a co-founder of Raiz. Mariana is my partner. I'm one of the directors, but she actually founded Sustainable Tourism in Brazil. I actually joined them out of invite and choice and life principle. Meaning the question was, where will I be? Where do I want to be? Because as you live your life, as you make your choices, you actually guide your choices. And I had this opportunity. Not everybody can have this type of choice. So that is a major benefit. So it is, I've been, so to be at Raízes Desenvolvimento Sustentável, Sustainable Development Groups NGO, was actually a choice so that we can live and breathe sustainable, responsible tourism so that we can have a tool to transform Brazil and the world. And that is what we're going to speak about. Also, I wanted to mention how important all this is and how much this is being nurtured by a community sense. I think the sense of nurture of community should really be even more present. Now we realize how much we need each other. And the Bagagem project, Polyana today is chairperson. Mariana and myself are now board members, but we've both been chair people there. But now we see the connections being happening. So I just wanted to give this background, how all the dots are being linked, how we're connecting the dots. Also, I would like to mention what is possible to do, what we've been doing, and what we need to better understand and to move on to more sustainable actions in Brazilian tourism. So whilst we reflect upon this, what comes to mind is, since yesterday we've been seeing something that really stays with me is legacy. And mind you, legacy is not for in a couple of years' time, it's for next minute. I'm speaking about my grandchildren's legacy. So that's pretty much tomorrow. So it's not that further ahead. What will the next generations really take in? How do I want this um, to scatter in the country? Because the word legacy can be rather overused, but we should be mentioned because it's truly what we're leaving behind. What is our heritage? So looking at tourism and responsible tourism is exactly that, because it brings to us a need to expand the way we understand sustainable tourism and how tourism is connected to several other dimensions of our lives. And these dimensions are not simple. It's a very complex context, all truly, because in the world and all over, we've been speaking about this, and in this forum too, we're actually bringing players and stakeholders speaking about the need to speak about preserving the environment, the natural environment, and as a forest, as a living monument, uh, and also the climate's impact and how that relates to us, and how are we dealing with nature's dimension? How can we deal with tourism and include people? But true inclusion with no race discrimination, gender discrimination that values all genuine territory identity, and also respect to ancestors, to original knowledge. What brings our and really drives our lifeline, our social DNA ahead, and how all that can at the same time circulate. How can we circulate economical assets with no segregation and distribute equally and all assets economically? And how all that is connected to a planetary evolution, and that is what's latent, and how everything is interconnected, and how what I do today reverberates in the world and in the planet, really. There's the one quote that goes, and the one flutter of a butterfly in Brazil can bring down a tower in Africa, because it's all interconnected. So everything is a direct consequence of our relations, and that's what we're speaking about with us, among us, with our planet, with our ground, with our scenery. And that is exactly what we are uh, approaching at this panel about responsible tourism and how that is perceived. And we've seen how we have had recently a number of pursuits really with tourism as a trade, but all managers, consumers, and planners how to pick up tourism and this pandemic and a virus that brought the whole planet to a halt, 192 countries impacted by a virus, billions of people stopped. So we got to think about this. So when we think about this, about resuming, so how to resume? We've seen, what we have noticed is that everybody is working on this retake, on this looking at trends and the ways to relate from now onwards, and especially because it's a very intense relationship sector, relationship with people, with the destiny, with production, with service, with legacy, with identity. So what are those looking at responsible tourism, how are they perceiving all this? And what are the main features that will influence, that have influenced and will influence the coming back of the whole tourism movement, the people traveling? It's all connected to affection, to safety, to caring, to closeness, and the physical proximity to travelers, and trust that is enabled so that I can relate safely, so I can think about my family, my surrounding, interact and enriching myself with that trip, but safely, knowing that this will happen, knowing that I will be back to go home safely, and those who I have visited will also be okay once I visit them. But that has brought several stakeholders in the market speaking of sustainable, responsible tourism, community-based tourism. So these are the main appealing factor to retake the flow. And that is like never before. So we are now speaking of a niche within a sector. Now we're speaking about a new way of doing tourism, and it is a way that is being perceived in Brazil and all over the world. Ana Bahia spoke about uh, the Costa Rica universe. If you have the chance, get learn more about it, because for her it's about learning about life, and that is really, it is not a standard or way of doing Brazilian tourism. We want to get there, and we see a lot of people already working on this, like you said, Carla. So the first thing I think we should put on the table is exactly that. Let's kick off this conversation speaking what is responsible tourism and its relation to society. What are the concepts? What is this wording all about that really get mixed up and in a wrong manner get people to understand things, thus leading people to wrong actions, to wrongdoings. So we have the possibility to bring actions that are not really compatible to what responsible tourism is all about. So right off the bat, I would like to pass the floor to Anna, because in her experience, I remember she actually shared the one article about responsible sustainable tourism. What is that all about, and what is the difference? Why do those get so mixed up, and how does it actually take place in tourism? Is just the one modality is only related to nature? So I'd like to get Anna Duék to share with us and tell us about this difference. So we hear from her experience, and we hear a bit from her, from her research, because she's a wonderful researcher, and she can bring to us in a very easy way to understand what is sustainable responsible tourism. And Anna, how important is correct information so that we can indeed do something that has a positive impact, that has a positive social impact, that brings a real sustainable project for all who are impacted by directly impacted by the tourist sector. Because if an action is based on malinformation, it becomes disastrous to everybody, and we want quite the opposite of that. So Anna, come join us. We're looking so forward to hearing from you. What is the difference between sustainable and responsible tourism? Thank you, Jussara. Thank you, Carla. Thank you, Jussara. Thank you, Max. Thank you, everybody, for the invitation. I am very happy to join you all. I think this is an amazing opportunity. And by the way, the event is absolutely genius. Now, let's address the question. I think Jussara has drawn a beautiful panorama, really set the ground, set the context and background of our current moment. And she's already given us a bit of a briefing about sustainable tourism and responsible tourism. My job is to try and break this down, because that is, as a communication professional, that is basically my job to try and bring people together. The better we can create concepts, the better we can think about terminology, the better, because if we get this wrong, we get people away from us. Now, the word sustainability is not easy to digest. We've had a very complicated kind of relationship. And there's a bit of a myth about the word sustainability. And I think it's very important that we sort this out, really demystify its meaning, and specifically about tourism, because today, for us here in our trade, in our sector, this is the main topic. This is what Jussara said. Responsible, sustainable tourism used to be a niche, really a part of the sector, a subset of a sector. But actually, we have to have the entire productive chain of tourism. All professionals and travelers should understand, must understand this causes to be it is for everybody. It's not a niche thing, and this has already been experienced abroad. And the idea is to bring this here to major corporations, aviation sector. It's for everybody to get involved. It is not something aside, the one niche, the one group, one fringe group kind of idea. No, it should and it must be mainstream. Now, because we're here at an event that is directed to professionals that whose topic is sustainability and responsible tourism, with people who are already knowledgeable about this topic, who know about practices and actions, I think it's important to understand the difference between the two terms, and maybe a new term that Carla will speak more about that is being coined, which is regenerative tourism, that we're going to speak further about, because these differences in terms are very important, because what they carry with them is mindset shifts. It is change. It is new concepts that they bring, that they add. So when it comes to responsible tourism, this was coined about 10 years later than sustainable tourism was coined. And it is important that they've been coined by researchers, by tourism professionals who felt the need. They felt the need that to sustainable tourism really couldn't really encompass all social and cultural pillars for sustainability. So sustainable tourism was very much focused on environment only, and it was rather neglecting social and cultural aspects, or social cultural aspects, if I can pack those two in the one pillar. So indeed, it's one more myth about sustainability, one of the many myths. So we're thinking that sustainability is just about environment preservation. We shouldn't, and we're being oblivious about social, cultural, and economic sustainability. So this was the angst. This was the call. This is what the feedback, the input that we got, and we said, listen, we need to expand this. So the concept was coined as responsible tourism, meaning you travel to make, in order to make the places, the destinations, better places for those who are from there. So a destination, whatever it is, needs to be a good place to live and a good place to visit. So if it's a city or a destination, whatever it is, if it's not proper for people to live, it won't be good for anyone to visit. So this is how the idea came to be, to think about destinations and how to look after them, and look after people, and look after the local dwellers. So it's about thinking about the environment, the economy, all local environment and the local economy. So tourism, sustainable tourism has this intention, listen, I'm not talking about abolishing sustainable tourism as a phrase, but we should look at uh, responsible tourism. Now, those new words are more focused on social aspects and also local issues, because sustainable tourism thinks about solutions. It thinks globally about generic solutions to solve things globally. And responsible tourism has exactly that, the thinking that you solve things and things are developed locally. So what is a solution? What is it that works in the one territory, in the one area, not necessarily will work everywhere else. What is a priority over here is not necessarily a priority over there. So this is the type of outlook that for me is very important and interesting. Lastly, a sustainable company or hotel can't be kind of sustainable. It's either fully sustainable, full compliant with all the requirements, with all the pillars, or it's not sustainable. You can't really meet anyone halfway. So sustainable, so it's more about an idea, about a means to an end. And responsible tourism is a commitment. I take on the responsibility. I'm accountable to doing my best in this transition for a tourism that is more sustainable. So I take on me the responsibility that we have a more sustainable, a more responsible, sustainable tourism. To say I am sustainable is anybody is fully sustainable, but to say I am fully responsible is different. So that is the idea between sustainable, responsible, accountable. That is so interesting, Anna, because not only people get information, because this is a very subtle difference when we think about sustainable and responsible or accountable. Accountable and responsible in Portuguese, the exact same word. So you want to get to that target. I want to be a traveler. I want to be a sustainable entrepreneur, traveler. Means what? Means I am accountable for this. It's my commitment. I am part of this, and I will have to act in order to do so. So that is also connected to travelers themselves, on communicate that to consumers, because consumers are also accountable. So an accountable, responsible tourism is not only those who work in the area, not only who are actually the sellers, the operators, agents, managers, but the tourists too, because we as travelers are also responsible for the impact we generate at destinations we visit, because we are speaking as professionals, but several times when we're the passengers, we don't act the same. And I like reflecting, you know, uh, the discourse and the practice. Absolutely. It starts at home. We have to do our own homework. We gotta put in practice what we preach. Look, there's the one area that I communicate. That's where I started out. But what I try and do is actually this hat to raise awareness amongst travelers. So I think it's for everybody, really. I think this is the idea. It is try to deconstruct and think, oh, I don't need to have to, how am I going to implement this sustainability policy? It has to be perfect, this and the other. No, start where you can. What is more practical? Start with the low hanging fruit. Gradually and slowly take on the responsibility, and you move forward as you can, because in our lives, uh, we can't fully go full on only using ecological products, meaning fully vegan. We do as we go, as we can, step by step, and improving. And we learn every day. And mind you, I'm learning every day. I'm trying to change my own habits. And I think this is how our growth, this is what growth is all about. Absolutely, the importance of understanding, of separating and understanding those two words, sustainable and responsible. They are connected. One is part of the other. It is a way of doing tourism. It is not a niche or a segment within a sector. No, it can be applied in any activity within tourism as a sector. So to bring this is crucial. But information is the base. So entrepreneurs need to communicate this, tourism professionals need to communicate this, consumers, clients too. Just like you do on your blog, you speak to them directly, you bring these elements to everything you do. And that is something that needs to really be leveraged, to really be spread, to really spread the word. I think the one thing that we can speak about, and I would like to get Polyana to weigh in on this one, is what actually the question is how the community-based tourism, how can it have a potential to disseminate responsible sense to all people, and how does it fit in a responsible tourism definition? Because what we see is that in a community-based tourism, what do we have? We have as a pillar responsibility, right? So I think Polyana can share and tell us a little bit more about this. especially from her understanding of the differences. How does community-based tourism fits in Brazil? Because the Bagagem project, besides, uh, well, Polyana is a travel operator, like it's been said. She does community-based tourism. She she also has many possibilities to act, and it's something that she knows, that she believes. She's part of the Bagagem project, that is a NGO for driving and fostering community-based tourism, whose one of the main jobs is to bring information. So, Polly, I would like to pass the floor to you. Then we should speak about the importance and of integrating collaboration. I think of putting all together, besides information, beyond information, it is absolutely essential to bring this accountability of a responsible tourism to our practices. Polly, I've been able to unmute. Can you all hear me? Great. I was listening to Anna. She was speaking and she was saying the community-based tourism does this and this and the other. So those who want to do responsible tourism, it's quite interesting to understand what is the community based tourism, because CBT, community based tourism, it is done with the community who are actually welcoming the tourism. So all decisions are made together with the community, and they are the entrepreneurs themselves. They do the receptive, the uh, lodging, meals, activities, and one of the reasons and of most of these experiences is for ecological preservation and traditions and knowledge and culture for the maintenance of their means of life in a collective building to operate in the one destination. So I believe that CBT has several pillars from sustainable tourism that we can we can illustrate really. We can mirror our efforts. The first aspect will be the economical aspect, because the income is generated and it benefits everybody who lives in a community. There's also equity sense and empowerment, where decisions are made collectively, and activities pricing of what is offered, it is actually decided by the members. So it is not dictated by some external operator or council or any of the sort. So with all that, it's all much more transparent. Operations become more transparent. So that's what CBT transparency really is, and how it helps. Now, for those who live in the community, it also, for those who live in the community, there's also value, as in worth. So we see companies wanting to join in, to come. So really, the definitions are already set by them. Is what you said before. The one thing that works in the one place, not necessarily will work somewhere else. So only the community really knows what works due to their own knowledge and knowing. And this is very important so that we can have a more responsible tourism. And finally, I see that often in Brazil. It's one of the pillars, a major pillar of CBT is the ecological factor. Several community bases that work here works in order to keep their traditional lives, keep up the preservation and their environment, so they can actually resist real estate speculation, for example, major agribusiness interests, so they can actually show they do not necessarily need these actors to bring economical benefit to their they can actually do it without him, with their own work and gathering forces. And I think it's very important to highlight what you mentioned, Jussara, because it's not a niche. It's not something that can be further explored. With the CBT is not something to be explored. Beach destination can also be CBT with added value by visiting a community that is by the beach. Same with ecotourism. So this is what I see. I see as a tool for sustainable development of a destination. And I think this is what the Bagagem project tries to work in, strengthening exactly that. Today, we've already been doing some events, online events. That's all we can do now. But the idea is also to do exchange programs so that communities can learn from each other. But mind you, that doesn't have to be limited to communities. There are already networks being built that are regional. The one network has been launched with community from Bahia with several stakeholders, and everybody is very excited. And the rest of Brazil is kind of jealous, I would say, really, because we've managed to create a network Batuque that has gathered academia agents, and they're all joining forces so they can strengthen tourism. And it's something that really attracts a lot of tourists to Bahia. That, I think that's what we need to understand when we speak about we're thinking about resuming tourism. But what about the communities? Okay, it needs to be safe. Are you talking to communities? Do you understand that the value of your destination, the worth of your destination is connected to that community that lives there? That really shows that the dialogue must take place so that we can generate more value. And also, I believe that even if we think about tourism side, really, it's like what Anna said. We started thinking about responsible tourism, thinking about destination, about the people who live there, right? And I think when a destination has elements, that all elements that CBT has, hospitality, the receiving and hospitality becomes better in a way and at a price that the community finds fair, at a fair price. And tourists also think it's nice because they they see their tourism money as a good investment money because they see going to community. And also with CBT, with CBT, there's this transparency base, absolutely. The autonomy of pricing, the understanding of how much things cost is quite simple and autonomous. So it is something that is transparent. I am paying a genuine price because that was sustainable. That is being done and carried out by that community. So it actually, exactly, the traveler buys, they are happy, they're more satisfied. And that really is about all the links in a chain. And in my agency, when I work with freelance, self-employed tour guides, I actually tell them how much I'm charging passengers. So many tour guides find that rather funny because not all agencies do that. No, absolutely not. So we do this so that we can have transparency. And this is a learning that we have with communities. And that is why it is a different way of doing tourism. It is a different way that has elements that are transparent and that is empowerment, really. So that's why information is so important for us so that we can circulate that for the Brazilian audience, international audience too. There's the one question by Regiane, and she's wanting to know if community tourism, especially when you talk about environmental areas, should they take into consideration the management plans of that conservation plan? Before you answer, usually in the areas or environmental protected areas, preservation areas, and we have documentation about uh, community-based tourism. Look, when communities are well organized and when tourist entrepreneurs are well organized, usually they are actually invited to be part of community councils. So they are there planning management plans. But I'd like to ask you, do you have any other elements to add to this journey's question? I thought it was very interesting. Her question is even, there are more details. Maybe we would like to hear from Mariana and Anna too, because the question is, technology, sustainable tools can also be used by entrepreneurs, and what are they? Look, for the first question about preservation units, my first thought is about the involvement of communities, being involved in the management decisions, because it becomes much easier when the community is involved right off the start. It's way easier because that's when we're already framing, we're designing things, and it shows the respect for the people who are involved. And also, I find it very hard not to be of their interest. You see, responsible management, I believe it would be of their interest either. Therefore, they are interested in everything in their location. Exactly, because they're part of that, they inserted. And several times those preservation units are areas that sometimes may have. Actually, one of the opinion affects is exactly the fact that it's preservation, exactly adds value to insert that in the process. And I think later, if it's brought later in the process, I don't think it's ideal really, but it's what I said before. The one thing is to involve community, the dwellers of a place, for the decision-making process, and it's something else to impose decisions or beliefs and practices um, about something that and these are things that were decisions that were made without really knowing, things that you don't really know. Exactly, CBT, when they are in a preservation area, the other thought that popped in my mind is not really a question, but something that always happens. But how can I have CBT in that particular region, in that area? Like, because the CBT is in that area. I'm not bringing anything there. It is there already. Exactly. The community is already inserted, it's already there. The unit was created, it's the other way around. Exactly. The tourism is already there. They must want. It's they have to be part of the development process through tourism. They have a preservation area there. Most preferable, they should be involved in the setting and designing of management plans and all the everybody who's going to be involved in tourism activity, because if they are, most likely they themselves will want the management plan to be respected. Absolutely. Yes, and for sustainable technologies. I don't know what sustainable technology or sustainable technology tools she refers to. Maybe she's talking about something about that is being put into practice by a community. Look, going back, it's about dialogue and desire, really. What is the one sustainable technology? Let's think. Is it wind technology? Is that sustainable technology? For some people, the answer would be yes, but you may be destroying a community by implementing wind towers at a certain area. So you see, what is a sustainable piece of technology, or what is a sustainable technology action? Not, and does the community see that and perceive that as also sustainable? Also, I think Solange should comment on that, because Solange works as an operator, so she's actually at the ground, directly connected. She knows about the importance of the community base. She knows what it is in practice, because that's her experience, that's her everyday life. She's the person who's on the ground in the area, she's on the road, she's operating, she's in the operations of this beautiful route that speak by to us about most rich origins, really rich. She deals with entrepreneurs in the territory where she works. So I believe Solange, you can tell us more. What is it like to do CBT effectively, really, in practice? And she has the Rota da Liberdade. It's a product called the Root of Freedom, and she can tell us more about this, about the need of technology or inputs in a community. Where should they come from? Necessarily from the community themselves. And I think entrepreneurs can insert sustainable inputs if it's indeed a need, a demand, a requirement from the territory. Because I say that oftentimes we see this mistake. I believe this is going to be so cool there. I believe, I don't know if they think, they believe. I don't know if they have sustainable technology, if they have some traditional other solution. So I think maybe Solange could address that and share with us what it's like to do CBT in practice with her Rota da Liberdade, the freedom route, and her experience. And I think she's got very interesting things to share with us now. Solange, are with us? Yes, I'm with you. I'm here. I'm actually enchanted by you, by all of you. Carla, thank you so much. Carla, thank you for the opportunity. And indeed, the word is opportunity. Thank you, Carla, for the opportunity, because we need to speak up. We need to speak and discuss and bring to light, because it's incredibly important, Jussara, to make this clear. That is not a tourism niche. It is not a new tourism thing. It is not a fab. It's not something that some will be able to pull and others won't want to do. Exactly. It's not some exotic thing being offered. Absolutely not. Yeah, it is not. And what I see is is how important it is to discuss all this, because I do the Liberty Route tourism, and it started from responsibility, from my responsibility as a Black person who's had the opportunity to get to college, who had access to tourism. And I've been able to understand that my Black community, it is has to be part of a income generation process through tourism. Because since the year 2000, because the Liberty Route was founded in 2010, and I went to Quilombo in Batuba, Caçundoca, and it was very interesting because there are this paradise beach, honest, a gorgeous, beautiful place, but people get in and out of the community in a scandalous manner, with not even have the idea, the slightest notion that you're in and out of a traditional community. So we had issues of uh, ducks being run over, ducks that belong to the quilombolas, because they at least in the Colombo, Caçundoca, the ducks were being run over. And this is just one example of several traditional Black communities in rural areas. They have this need for preservation because they have vegetation, and they need some animals that need to control the geese and the ducks that are native. And people drive there and they run over wild animals, or they drive all the way to the beach and they run fire and they do the fire bombs, and they pee on walls, they pee anywhere because they couldn't care less. They urinate in the streets. They don't even notice they are on a community. So the freedom route is about that, valuing the people, valuing the community, and inserting these people and raising awareness of being a bridge, really, because the local community is filled with knowledge and the practical tourism knowledge they were lacking, you see. So at that point back then, I was an agent. I was bridging, I was filling the gap, really. And throughout the years, I remember in 2006, I was the only Afro ethnic booth project within the state secretariat, and people were laughing. People were actually mocking, saying, "No one will want an Afro Black tourism. What are you talking about?" kind of thing. Exactly. We need to evolve. You are an absolute benchmark. We've come along well, and other Black tourism is coming, but it's still very rare. We need we see now Black agents, Black professionals, Black travelers, and I believe in that, what you're saying, because that's the Brazilian reality. Exactly. Malia, a Batuque network also is one of the main historical monuments of this transformation process. And Bahia has always been considered an exotic type of destination where you see black bodies serving tourists. Those black bodies had no value, had no worth. I am gonna braid my hair. I'm gonna go to the samba. I'm gonna beat the drum. I'm gonna go to Pelourinho. But what do I know about those people who are there? I know nothing about them. I know nothing about the importance of this black body, culturally speaking, and the Batuque network and tourism, Afro tourism development in Bahia and all over Brazil has been changing. And when we talk about CBT, community-based tourism, that means community tells me what they want, how they want to communicate with those from offshore, from abroad, or from outside, and what can and can't be in their territory. I remember about 6 months ago, Ms. Laura said to me, "I like working with you." And she said, "Because you don't treat me like a maid. You respect me like the help. You don't treat me like the help. You actually respect me." You see, something so natural, so obvious, does not take place because there is no responsibility. Because due to the fact that I had an education and geographer Newton Santos was part of my education. Exactly, in my experience with him, because I am the granddaughter of Angolan people, I have a historical background, because I have a degree in history, I could then be a transformational agent to the point that today, where we have our own quilombolas destination like Vale do Ribeiro, now we have a face. We all have a quilombola Paulista circuit, and they have a face. We have Journey, who has a degree, he's a tour guide, he's got a college degree. So you see, when you get into this process of speaking about Afrotourism, about CBT, community-based tourism, you have this need, a major need of being responsible for calling people to also be responsible about passing responsibility forward. To have, it's not just responsibility to the environment, not only to the community, but qualify also the tourists. Tourists must be graded, qualified, so they don't are not lost in illusion, an illusional kind of tourism. Exactly, information is key. Absolutely, information needs to be clear because we are working with a relationship kind of process that is connected to people's imagination before they get to a destination. So it has to be very, very clear. At Raiz, we had the same thing when we thought about the routes, the people would ask us, tell us, listen, there's no hot water, there's no carpet there, the roof has is has the ceiling is rough, really. You know, and you're going to have an amazing experience. Exactly. So how can the freedom route, where, tell us a little bit about it. When you started out as a possibility, how was that received? And how were they empowered by the freedom route? And how has it matured? I've been present the whole process. And until 1988, the Colombola communities were marginal communities. The constitution happened. Then we had the Colombo movement to have access to the land. So those older groups, they were very much involved in the direct struggle for land access. But they already had young people who whom with they had been organized because they were visionaries. They were uh, paying attention to the long term. They saw ahead. They saw ahead. They saw Columbus being invaded for tourism. So they started thinking, hang on, this has to uh, give us something because we're here. So they started really raising young people to open their eyes. So they started preparing young people to be monitors. Then some also quilombolas, young people started having access to high school and then to college. Few, very few, but still they have been multipliers within their communities. And then technology. Now technology, look, we have an internet coverage. I remember when you had to walk around trying to find connection, exactly walk to get signal. But they know these spaces and they take ownership of information that comes through technology. Maybe they don't have the latest state of the art piece of gadgets, piece of technology, but they are there. They are learning through technology. They are advancing. They are taking ownership of technology too. So the tourism is indeed part of their daily lives. So I was actually able, I've been enabled in my 20-year journey in tourism. I've seen its growth and I see communities becoming and getting more powerful and empowered, learning that they are the ones that make the decisions. So this CVT is indeed resistance, absolutely resistance, resistance, carefulness, land management of what is yours. This ownership is very strong in Colombolas, and we see that with indigenous peoples too. We see that with Ribeirinhos. We see the invasions also being very serious, absolutely, and it's terrible, horrendous. And they have a very clear notion as to alliances. Alliances, mind you, who from outside our space can we make alliances with so that we have better spaces, better results of all this development. So not all communities, I see communities making decision and improving every day. Solange, what is the tourist profile? Who's been approaching? Who is actually having an interest in the Liberty route or Freedom route? And where can people get more information about it? The Freedom Route started in 2006, and we thought about a pedagogical kind of tourism, meaning to apply the like 10, 639 to study Afro history. So we had students and teachers engaged. Then it broadened. And today, I can tell you, our audience are Blacks. Blacks are our audience. Blacks pursuing their roots, pursuing to learn about our own history. It's a new movement. Afrotourism has existed for some time now. Now we have Afrotourism, meaning professionals who have been working with Afro-centered programs, with uh, run by blacks with black travelers. Absolutely beautiful, gorgeous, and I think this is an inclusion process really. To have the black traveler is also part of an inclusion process because they're not pursuing about their own roots and origins. Because just like wanting to be anywhere and everywhere, they want to know about their own history. They want to know about their heritage. And I think that we need that so much, because much of what we do today, by not respecting, by not preserving, by not communicating, by not really passing this forward, all crucial issues. It's all is very much about being oblivious to our root, about our identity, about looking at us. Because without that, how can you value something you don't know? Absolutely. And the Brazilian blacks, everybody knows, has always been to an exclusion process. Absolutely. Brazilians are fully excluded, especially in tourism. And if you see a black body in tourism serving someone, we always discuss this. When you have a hotel chain, okay, a major hotel chain, you won't see a black person at the reception desk. Why? They'll have visual contact. They'll have this interaction with tourists. People are bothered about blacks in their position. They can be bilingual, they can be trilingual, but no one cares. Exactly, and a super qualified black professional, what they think, oh, it's a doorman. Exactly, a black body is a door person, nothing more. They are serving, they're working, but they can't have interaction. They don't even interact really with any. It's okay to have a black body opening and closing doors. It's fine to have the chambermaid being black, but if the black body is interacting with you, when we speak about the black traveler, this is what we're thinking about, the possibility of having black people choosing their space. If they're coming to the Colombos, if they're coming to traditional communities, those also have economical power. Those who have even more purchase power are actually going to South Africa. They're looking to the African continent now to learn about more about the Brazilian community, to see how they fit in the Brazilian society. So interesting. With the freedom route, what we see today, just like what Anna said, and and the other speakers mentioned, what we see is an experience with the bagaging and informal networks that gather be CBT from all over Brazil. And we see how much Solange experience is really popping all over from south to north. Rich experiences, including the Amazon, that are very little known. Some are more well known than others. And I believe we are in a very good stage. It's actually on the agenda now. It's on the agenda of several actions, because here we are speaking at a forum that several people are now listening to us. The word is spreading. And I think several rich experiences are spread all over Brazil. And this has become a movement of a Brazilian movement, an authentic movement of what we bring, of what we can do best when it comes to tourism, to socialize that, to bring this to people. And in this sense, we've been able to be part of, of this in international events connected to tourism, connected to sustainable events in Latin America and in the world. And I think Mariana has a great experience to speak about this great set of experiences that she's been experiencing all over Brazil. We're actually getting some questions now. There is one by Pedro. He's making this very nice comment that is quite interesting.
Quite interesting. And Mariana is saying that educating the traveler is very important, because if we want to have responsible tourism, true responsible tourism, we should not skip and formal education for tourism. It's very important and one of the most important movers on the world economy. She's saying that we should also expand the education, talking about other elements that are essential in tourism. Mari will go into this, the personal experiences. I think it's very important to complement what Solange has already said. And I think that we will talk about education because I think education is the foundation. But I think Mari needs to tell us about her experiences because I think there are great things happening. But this does not happen overnight. This is a fact. We can't create a community-based tourism overnight. I was thinking about several things while I was listening to you. I think this was very interesting what Anna brought up, the differences between sustainable tourism, because I truly think that this word sustainable, people often do not understand what it truly means. They cannot reach sustainability. Things are almost utopic. And the word was becoming more frail with all the greenwashing. And I think it makes it more accessible. We're talking about a journey, about an attempt both for people who are on trade and people who are traveling. It's in that sense that we want to bring examples for people who want to travel differently, travel in a more responsible way, so that they can know what they should look for, what should they do. And in this sense, I think we are in a very important point for that. During the pandemic, now getting into the topic, since Pedro already mentioned, yes, we're still in the middle of a pandemic. People are already very tired. They are talking about their trips, but we're still in a pandemic. So this is the moment to talk about responsibility before our communities. And we were thinking here if we should talk about community tourism, sustainable tourism, responsible tourism. And we decided to talk about responsible tourism because it's a broader topic and it's quite important. We need to talk about a responsible way to travel, whether it's for community-based tourism, wherever you go. We need to be responsible at the moment. I think this is a moment to rethink everything, especially traveling. And for the community, we had a panel in the morning about the indigenous people, about the Amazon. So we need to be very careful with the way we move around today, what we're taking with us in all senses, even in the health sense now. And I really like to hear Solange speak. I think we are in a moment of using tourism to discover how people find how they live, other ways to interact, and have an experience with these other ways to live. This is quite rich. It's wonderful to be able to live with traditional ways. This is wonderful to discuss the Quilombola culture. And I'd like to go back to Grão de Luz Criou. This is a group from Bahia, from Chapada. It is a wonderful group. And I think we can mention the example from Rio de Janeiro, Small Africa, Connecting Territories, and a very interesting initiative. People from Quilombo do Campinho. They are well established already. And in addition to the people in the Quilombos, it's in Paraty, Quilombo do Campinho, just so we can think where we are. And that's the Inhandereco network. We have Quilombola, you have indigenous people, and the seaside people. You have a great group that is well developed there. So this is a line of Quilombos. But I think that the group that we really have to think. You probably saw my doll here. If you saw our video, you might understand. We have a group that we helped from the base group and now they are operating in Campo Buriti. We encourage people to visit them in a group in Araçuaí, operated by Dedo de Gente, a cooperative for young people that is amazing as well. There's also a Quilombo group in Jequitinhonha. That's the Quilombo route. So go visit that region in Minas Gerais. It is a different type of tourism. It's very interesting. In Ceará, we have two wonderful groups. Tucum Network, they have participated in the event, and the Foundation Casa Grande in the drylands, in the hinterlands in Brazil. And lastly, some tips about the Amazon. Pedro asked that question. Who talked about the educating the travelers was Jaisine Rosa. Pedro has another question. The second question is always also related to this, but it's more connected to public policies. So I'll let you end your thoughts and then I'll ask his question. Pedro's from Pousada Wacari, right? If you haven't been there, you need to go there. It's a wonderful Brazilian case in terms of sustainability. It's a hostel created by Group Mamirawa, close to Tefé. And now it's being transferred to the community for their management. And it's a success case in terms of sustainability, management, responsibility. It's a wonderful space close to the forest. For operation, when it comes to Pará, I suggest you get familiar with the women's group of the Cotijuca Island. And for their operation in the indigenous communities, I suggest you learn about Collective Muda. In addition to Viveja, Tamari was my partner and so on. In addition to Poly from Freedom Route, we have Turismo Consciente, aware tourism, works with indigenous tourism. Poly, can you help me out? Who else will we have there? Vivenciar in Amazon, Gabiraba Station, Manatee Lodge, Poranduba, which is also in the Amazon. The best operators. We also have experiences that are not interior experiences. We have Ed from Araribá working in São Paulo. We have some experiences with a community-based travel in Rio, in the city of Rio de Janeiro. So we have in Paraná and Santa Catarina. They are structuring it now in Paranaguá as well, and it's amazing. So there's a whole group of experiences that have as protagonists the community themselves, and now they are being operated by operators that they have the responsibility as their main feature. The Coletivo Muda is one of the main ones. It's an example of alliance that is important to discuss. The Bagagem project and everything we've mentioned. I think this is a strategy for Brazil today. I think we need to organize. We have the Turisol network, where we have a lot of dialogue. It's informal, but we have a lot of connection. We find out information. This is very important. But we have collective organizations which are working and struggling. And I think that dialogue with a trade and public management and the possibilities for support, I think these are essential issues to have this movement and make it grow so that people can understand how rich it is to have community-based tourism. The potential that Brazil has, and not only potential but actions, activities, territory for operation. exactly, there's a lot for us to be familiar with and with responsibility. These are communities, these are traditional groups, and to figure out what is the moment. And here comes the Pedro's question. He says, I have a question. Some companies sell responsible tourism following the concept of that Anna explained. We having in tourism the responsibility to being sustainable. But what comes now when the tourism Ministry of Tourism has taken over the term, but we're using a very different meaning? This is Pedro's question. Then I ask all of you, because I think that this is the end of our talk, to talk about the challenges. We talked about the concepts, about the community-based tourism, collective groups, the Rota da Liberdade, Freedom Route, and
Potencial para ser referência mundial, sim.
we have all of this, but people look at Brazil and they want to see Brazil in a different way. What's going on? We need to show more of what's going on in Brazil. But I'll ask this question for Pedro. But this is connected to a policy that will say, in fact, what things are, and not only take over a term, a word, to show, I don't know, what people want to say. And these are the considerations that we will need to have about this question and the challenges that we have so Brazil can truly become a reference in responsible tourism from this immense potential and the things we are already working on. We have been working hard on it and facing many issues that will face resistance until we have a more credible outlook on this potential. I'd like to have a quick comment about it. This mark, I saw that it have 11.5 thousand downloads. You log in, you do a self-assessment, and then you download it. I've asked it, who has never gone through one of those terms of use where you just says, yes, I've read it, and you move ahead? And I ask myself, 11.5 thousand people have read it. Did they really read it? Is that enough? That's all I'd like to say. So what are the challenges we have so that Brazil will become a worldwide benchmark for responsible tourism? I'd like to open by saying that it's very important to think that tourism in any way is a sector, is an industry that is integrated. It's interconnected. You need to have communication in it. It has a giant chain of intelligence, of services. But we need to have more intelligent governance on it. We need to understand the meaning of interdependence. You need to be in effect among us. We can have better, healthier relationships. And I think this all is connected to the need of public policies that talk to the reality of Brazil, that listen to Brazil, that listen to the territories, that listen to entrepreneurs, and that we can be less dependent on it, that we can talk and communicate but not be dependent. I think that is what she said. I think what Pedro mentioned is related to a lot of what we said, about communicating, Jason's question, about being transparent in communication and in education with travelers as well, with our audience and with ourselves. So we need to transform responsible tourism, and health safety is not possible. It's confusing, it confuses people. And we need to move this debate forward. People need to understand that it goes beyond that. If it's just marketing and advertising, okay, alright, but we cannot stop there, and you cannot be limited to that, and understand that this is responsible tourism, because it's not, and we need to move on and go beyond that in this discussion. We have this issue where we, in practice, have to go beyond the protocol issues. Oh, it's beautiful, it's great, sustainable tourism and so on. And with protocol and so on. And it's all related to a little bit of greenwashing, right? It's what I said. We are saying that this is what people want to hear. So this goes through our consumers. I think consumers have a large responsibility when they look at this mark. I need to ask, what does this mean? What were the protocols? How do you do it? There's no point in just seeing something on the wall and saying, oh, okay. Just meters, sustainability meters is really truly health. So I think that this is a major challenge. Mari, Polyana, Solange. This is a challenge, it's a self-declared challenge, and this is something that is important. We're having a health mark, a self-declared health mark with something that is very important. So you have something that, while we're still in the middle of the pandemic, and we already have 11,000 marks, 11,000 seals that have already downloaded it and have self-declared it. So we start asking if this truly is responsible. Are these people really having a responsible posture? Once more, we need, as a trade, and as travelers, we need to ask ourselves. Of course, as a trade, we need to survive financially. So we don't want to be those very critical and say, no, we cannot go back. No. We can each figure out and understand what we need to do. It's not a very radical position, but you need to be responsible. But it's the time to think and travel. But we need to think on how to do it, not just do it massively. That's it. This is not the moment to do it massively. It's the way to do it truly responsibly. I see one of the challenges as the issue of education. I would like to piggyback on her comment, and it's the basis for a change from this movement in Brazil for almost everything, and it's not different. She talks about traveler education and also the education on training of professionals. So how can we put that in practice? This is a major challenge. We have to have efficient public policy, but I think that we can work with the educational process in the communities where we are working at. We do this in the places where we're working, taking correct information, working with diverse groups, working with children, with professors, and so on. I think there are ways. We do this when we are working in territories because we cannot depend on public policies and force, because they don't talk about tourism and elementary education, for example. I never heard anything about tourism. If I was not someone who was curious about the world since a child, I wouldn't be a traveler since I was 15, and now I'm 60. So this spoke highly to me. That was my main education. But how can we work with these challenges in education in territories? I think Solange, who's a historian like me, she has probably a view about it, right? In terms of educating not only both the traveler and the professionals. For example, we think about public policies and doing regional tourism to bring together the government levels, the different to talk with the secretaries of education, so that tourism will become part of formal education. We have to take advantage of moments like this year, which is the most insane year we've ever seen, and we are at the edge of municipal elections, and they all will happen virtually, to try and educate candidates so that they can always have tourism as an agenda, and also have municipal dialogues, working with many other councils and with culture. We have to use all spaces possible. We need more maps. We need to have one every day, or at least once a month, come on. Because we need to talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. And talk with reason, with science, with knowledge. The community, the Farm Quilombo, will not open for tourism up to the end of the year because they're in a state park. The state park at Serra do Mar, it's also closed. And the tourists that are not responsible are getting into that space because they are not concerned about the inhabitants. They just want to go to the beach and to the waterfalls. So they don't care if these people are under risk or not. So as a businesswoman, I'm starting to discuss today itineraries for 2021. But for Laura, for the people at the Quilombo, my partners, so that they will have some support, currently we are having workshops with Quilombo cooking using my web portal, which is very interesting. It's very nice, very cool. We were growing. African tourism was growing immensely. We were right at the top. And then the pandemic came along and made us go way, way back. But the web portal that was only focused on selling experiences become a portal to sell digital experiences. So currently me and Lara, we talk almost the whole day. We plan what are the dishes that she will show on her next workshop. We are conducting polls to see what they want to learn based on these polls. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Solange, but this is another interesting thing about the diaspora. So people should access the Diaspora Black web portal. It's another reality connected to responsible tourism, community-based tourism, and it's African responsible tourism. So you can see how things start growing. But things are you're reinventing yourselves, right? Yes, we're reinventing ourselves. We are preparing to come back. We don't know when this will happen, but when it does, with full responsibility, I will not put my community at risk.
And we were discussing this at a tour guide group, because bus companies actually presented a protocol. But you see, I'm a tour guide. When I get off the bus, I gotta keep my hand there so tourists disembark. But look, my hand, so tourists get off the bus, I can't have it there. will tourists hold on to a handrail? And how many times will drivers have to wipe the handrail? Do you see? How long will it take to go on and to get on and off of a bus? I can't have 40 people on a bus, you see? Right, details. Exactly, I'll have 20 people. But can you imagine how long it will take people to get on and off buses? Yeah, I can't not think about that. I can't be responsible and turn around and say, no, 5. So I will be the annoying tour guide who will keep delaying people's barking and disembarking and getting the tour delayed. So you see, most likely there will be, do you think there will be tourists who won't want to remove a face mask? All of that is education. Right. I think we're reaching the end of our panel. And if we could, we spend a whole evening speaking, talking, exchanging. But we still have this one beautiful panel in this gorgeous event. And maps forum, and we need more. I don't know if Polyana has, any final remarks. Anna too. So we can wrap with our big thank you, with our major thank you. Look, I was just nodding over here. I could just watch you and agree with everything you were saying. But thinking about this responsibility, to think that if you are now rethinking of tourism, go beyond protocols and certifications. And really, what is responsible in your work? I get a lot of emails at our GCs from hotels saying we are following all protocols. But what I want to know as an agent is, does the destination want to receive tourists? Are you receiving tourists? Are attractions open? If they are, what are the protocols? And what is your neighbor doing? You see, trying and getting to really an integration, a whole flow of people talking and educate one another and tourists, and not let tourists walk around with no face masks, generating an uncomfortable situation to other people who are there. Just because, exactly what Mariana said, I know everybody's needing, but we need to impose too. As a company, we really need to stand our ground and say, listen, if we want to be called responsible, we need to respect the destination where we work. It doesn't matter at what capacity. And this would be my closing remark. And my big thank you. I was rather intimidated to be at a table discussion panel with so many amazing women. And any final remarks? I think we've spoken, we've covered a lot. It's a major challenge that we have. We've reached the conclusion from what we said that we've got beautiful examples, amazing things happening when it comes to responsible tourism. And what we're really lacking is what Jussara mentioned, really. Public policies. We don't have responsible tourism public policies or CBT, and something that can really, our neighbors have, and we are not promoting this abroad either. With this kind of experience, we're very much stuck to our own ways. And when it happens, it's going to be a beautiful, gorgeous leap. And we depend very much on ourselves, on the private sector and the initiatives. And I think by holding hands, and it's like what you said before, setting alliances, striking alliances, and understanding that we are all part. This culture needs to really permeate all companies, cultures, all people, because we can join forces. I think that's the way. We have a lot of potential, huge. And I want to thank you to be among amazing, gorgeous women. Thank you so much. Solange, your final remarks? Yes, first and foremost, I would like to thank you, Carla, thank you all, ladies, because every minute that we spend together of exchange, of discussion about this, really makes us a little bit better, really helps validate our own path. So, girls, big kiss to all of you. Thank you so much. Mari, any final words? Big kiss to each and every one of you. Thank you for the invite. Well, everyone, this is it. It's a wrap. We know we have a lot of potential. We have world benchmarking, but here in our country, we have a set of initiatives that is available to Brazilian audience, to those who are looking for transformative travels that are life-changing, that will look into responsibility, that want to bring something more in their baggage. And we have a operator sets and a collective of people, operators who are working together. So we have the Bagagem Project, we have Coletivo Muda. So all those movements are strengthening the sector. And we know we have a partner that we can still bring inside this movement. It is an action that we must really focus. And there are several challenges, but we can do more if we have more and more together and willing to talk and inform. So, Carla, thank you for the invite. I think this type of platform is ultra important so that we can talk and expose and air all these topics and invite all these people who have an interest in this way of looking at tourism. And I think this movement is actually taking its own life form. And I think our action is ours. The time is now. We can't wait. Thank you. Well done for the initiative. Thank you for the invite. I think the forum will reverberate great things. I'm very confident. And thank you for those who are on the other side of the screen with us. Well, I am here. I can hardly control myself. I am so excited. It was so gorgeous. We spent our time. Bill Reed has already joined us. He's already listening to you all talk. He's been with us for over 20 minutes. So we see how gorgeous, how wonderful your work it is. So proud of everyone who is connected to this movement. And before we move on, very quick, 2 comments. When Jussara speaks about choices to be made, I think it relates to a choice that says it all, really. We choose the path we want to take, the flag we want to raise, this ground we want to stand. For those who don't know, I'm a psychoanalyst. That's my major. And I used to tell my patients, we make our choices and we're responsible for the choices we make. Because even when we're oblivious, we are making a choice when we meet something. So we are at this very critical moment, and we've been at this forum since yesterday. The climate emergency panel, we brought very serious data about the Amazon. Then we have more data and information that are absolutely serious, and we see now a very clear appeal from people from our industry, from customers who consume our industry. And I mean final customers, individuals or companies. It is clear now that we're making choices every single day, and by being oblivious too. And what is a choice now in a market is exactly that. Let's have a sustainable tourism or unsustainable. Are we going to have responsible tourism or irresponsible tourism? So you see, I think it is very important for people to reflect upon this. Also, a bit of a poetic freedom. We press for time, but I'm going to take the liberty to say something because Jussara is a Buddhist like myself. So my big thank you to my Buddhist monk who is constantly opening. So we keep on our enlightened way. So thank you to our monks. And by the way, I want to read a text by a master Buddhist from Vietnam. And this text really speaks about choice. And it goes, we're speaking of the 5 memories that Buddhism say that we should cite every day. 1, I have nature of that ages. We can't escape old age. 2, I have the nature of that sickens. There is no escaping disease. 3, I have the nature of that dies. There is no escaping death. 4, everything that is dear to me and everybody I love has the nature of that changes. So there is no separating that. 5, my actions are my only true belongings. I can't escape the consequences of my actions. My actions are the ground upon which I walk. And that's how I would like to close my panel. Girls, these are beautiful words. My heart is warm. My heart is actually warm from everything I heard, and I am looking forward to several other forums, and I hope I'm not the only one organizing. I hope this whole audience who's joining us, who's with us, is part of this movement, takes part of organizing other movements, really, so that we can be at ease, knowing that our choices will be the only ground that we can stand on. Oh, thank you so much, gorgeous. Big kisses. Thank you so much. Beautiful kisses all over, all around. Kisses. Right, let's play the video. Bill Reed is already waiting for us. Those who are with us will hear about regenerative tourism. We'll get a chance, a very special chance, to hear from one of the major authorities about regenerative tourism. And for me, Bill Reed is an enlightening force, and also Bento Cruz, who brought regenerative design through the forest, through thermoculture. So I think now the closing is indeed about understanding this past, this step that is beyond. Is about responsible tourism, that is about regenerating our